everybody. Thank you for coming out on this cool spring morning. We have to emphasize that it's spring because it is kind of cool, right? Listen, I know that there's quite a few new people. Would you raise your hand? Everyone that's new? Whoa, very nice, very nice. Well, we'll make sure that it's going to be worth your while to have come and get to know us and what we can do for you. I am the executive director of the organization. We're 40 plus of Greater Washington. We're a nonprofit, all-volunteer organization. We've existed here since 1953. How many of you know a little bit about the nonprofit world and how hard it is for nonprofits to exist 5 years, let alone 65 years, and all based on an all-volunteer effort? Everybody involved with the organization is a volunteer, from administration all the way through to the facilitators for our course. And I'm very proud of the organization. I think it's a very noble organization and very proud to be a part of it. I'll tell you just a little bit about it. We were set up or founded by titans of industry. The founder of IBM, Tom Watson, the founder of JCPenney Retailing, Norman Vincent Peale, author of The Power of Positive Thinking, and Arthur Godfrey, a titan in the entertainment industry. And we were founded in New York in 1939, right after the Depression, because even back then there was difficulty of that experienced professionals were having in getting back into the workforce after the Depression. They saw how well the concept worked, and it's peers helping peers. Peers going through a training, and after they graduate from the training, coming back and helping other peers with their own job search, as well as conducting job search themselves. So the organization, as I said, is very noble. We had great founders, and here in DC we were set up in 1953, and to my knowledge we're the only ones still existing, aside from, I believe, one in Ohio. So we're here to stay, and we're, as you know, now with the Foundation Center. Some of you know that we used to be on P Street in a residential area. Now we're right in the heart of the business district, and a good part of the move is the fact that we are now seeing people who are seriously considering job search and moving up in their career. And we're very happy to be here with the Foundation Center. So now I would like to pass the baton on to Ken Shopman, who is our Director of Partnerships and Programming. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Gerald. Appreciate it. Thank you all for coming. So today's a special day because we have a real star in the 40-plus universe, a personal friend of mine and a colleague for many years. As I just told Shira, at first we wanted her to be the first speaker we had to really kick off our location here on a high note. But in reality, we also wanted to make sure we got it right before we brought someone of her stature and quality here in our organization, because Shira has been a loyal participant and contributor to 40+ for many years, and so we're very pleased and proud that she's here. So a little bit more. Shira is the CEO and founder of Purposeful Hire. Purposeful Hire intentionally connects job seekers and employers through career consulting, executive recruiting, and generational diversity training. Their philosophy is simple. To every hire, there is a higher purpose. Let's find yours together. Founded in 2011, Purposeful Hire grew from a passionate pursuit of job search excellence in organizations and in individual lives. Shira understands the needs of employer search and recruiting organizations and the challenges facing job seekers dealing with career change. Purposeful Hire promises there will never be any crossover between search and recruiting services and career consulting services. Shira is a natural connector. From childhood, she's loved bringing people together for their mutual benefit. I can attest to that personally. While studying for a master's in public relations, she realized that successful companies take employee stakeholders seriously, and that she wanted to support this all-important stakeholder group throughout their life's work. It felt difficult to achieve that goal in PR, so HR became her passion instead. Happily, she started to work for a professional search firm, began to focus on finding the fit between the job and job candidates that was fulfilling for candidates to pursue their career goals. Shira is a volunteer leader in the association and HR communities, served extensively with Washington, D.C. area groups, and remains dedicated to the value of ongoing professional development. So she's a real star in my world and in the world of many, many association colleagues that I can talk about, some of whom are here with us today, and I'm very proud about that. She's been a loyal volunteer, not only here at 40 Plus, but within ASAE and other critical organizations in the association community. She's launched a social venture called BoomerWorks, and I'm going to invite her to tell us more about that a little bit later. So please join me in welcoming Shira.
Good morning. When I was 9 years old, I had a life-changing moment. Anybody have a life-changing moment? You know what I'm talking about? You remember when? You remember the color of the sky, color of the carpet? It was 1979. Yes, I'm 46. I was living in Clearwater, Florida, and at the time I had two best girlfriends. One at school, her name was Laura, and one at home, her name was Jenny. Now, I thought if I like Laura and I like Jenny, they must, what? Like each other. It's natural. So I invited them over for what we now call a play date. Don't know what we called it in 1979, but anyway, it was a play date. And it was the three of us little girls, and we were playing in the yard, and all of a sudden, about a half an hour goes by, and not one, but both of them started to cry. Why? Because two's company, and they both wanted my attention equally and couldn't get it. 9 years old, without the advice of my parents, I ushered both girls into the living room, sat them on the couch. I sat on the piano bench, and what did I do? I began to mediate. Within half an hour, they were both hugging. At 9 years old. I now have a name for what I was being then. A connector. Any connectors in the room? Any connect? You know you're a connector if you're a connector. We connectors can't help ourselves, right? If we want two people to meet, they're going to meet. If I'm in a networking event, any connectors relate to this. I'm in a networking event, and Gerald and I are talking, we had a lovely conversation, but 10 minutes before I was talking to Barbara, right? And I'm like, Gerald, oh my, you've got to meet, and mind you, Barbara's already across the room. What am I going to do? I'm going to take her by the elbow, right? And I'm going to usher her, because we connectors have to connect. Do you know what I'm talking about? Anybody here have a personal passion to affect the world in some positive way? Right? You're a builder, you're an organizer, you're a creator, whoever you are, you've got to do what you got to do. You know what I'm saying, right? So in the world of employment, would you agree that employers are looking for your why, not just your what and your how? Would you agree with that? Yeah. What makes you different from the person who has just occupied literally that hot seat right before you? It's who you're being, not just what you're doing. So I would call that your passion. Now, your passion is who you can't help but be. You be that person your whole life. From the time you were until the time you are, right? You're being that person, but I consider that a little different than what we would call your purpose. This is just my language. You might have different language. But I would say your purpose is how your passion manifests itself into the world. So in a case like mine, so I'm a connector, right? Can't help myself. So in my professional world, I've been connecting people all along the way. As a headhunter, for 23 years now, I've been connecting employers with wonderful talent. As a career coach, I'm helping connect people, well, with themselves and their higher purpose, and also sometimes with employers. I'm also a generational diversity speaker, and I'm connecting the generations with each. Do you get this? Do you see what I'm saying? So I'm sure all of you can kind of relate on some level, yes? Who you're being, you can, in fact, even within your particular roles, have you ever found that you tend to gravitate a little bit more toward that part of the job that makes your heart sing? You know what I'm saying? And the stuff that not so much, well, not so much. Okay? So one of the ways that you can think about who you're being and how you want this service to help is who is your tribe? What's a tribe? Well, people use this term in different ways, and I have my own particular way of thinking about a tribe. I consider a tribe, and this might be a good place to take notes, Okay, because we're going to talk about this as we go forward. A tribe I consider to be a mission, an industry, or a sector. A mission, an industry, or a sector that you feel called to serve. Notice I'm emphasizing that word, serve. This is not just making money, right? It's not for any, this is a group you want to serve. Now let me explain something. Not everybody has a tribe. So let me say this. So in my world, in Ken's world, we are called to serve a particular population, at least in the employment world, and those are trade associations. Any other association folks here? Oh, great. Well, of course, it's PC, right? When I ask that question in Northern Virginia, nobody raises their hands. They're all in GovCon. But here we have association folks, and we association, don't we get it? If Ken and I were to sit down and have a conversation about membership, recruitment, retention, engagement, nobody else in the room would understand what we're talking about unless you were an association person. It's its own language, it's its own culture. Does that make sense? Okay. Not everybody has a tribe, but everybody has a lane. Or some of you have multiple lanes. A lane I consider to be your profession, your occupation, your career field. It's what you do. So figure it this way: your tribe is who you serve, and your lane is how you serve. Who you serve versus how you serve. Now, there are some of you who are cross-tribal. So for example, you're an accountant, you're a public relations professional, you're an HR professional, right? Wouldn't you agree that professions like those, lanes like those, often don't happen to have a tribe? You can serve any tribe. That's what I mean. You can go cut across. Anybody like that? Where you don't have a tribe, and that's totally fine. You don't need one. But let me tell you something. If you do have a tribe, your tribal members want to know that you exist. Get it? So in your branding, we're going to talk about this a little bit later, in your branding, which is your unique value proposition coming forth, you need to let the right people know that you are part of that tribe or you are part of the lane. So for example, Ken and I belong to ASAE, the American Society of Association Executives. It's an association for associations, and yes, there's an association for everything. Truly, not kidding. But there are also professional societies for people in lanes. Society for Human Resource Management, Public Relations Society of America, you know what I'm talking about, right? There are groups that represent both. I'm making a big deal about this because I want you to start self-identifying. I want you to start thinking about your branding, about your messaging, about what you're communicating to whom and why. So let's keep going here. So let's kind of go back into this passion thing, okay? What's your style? What's your natural style? Like who you be? Now there are a lot of different personality and behavioral assessments out there, would you agree? It's just a quick short list. Anybody taken any of these? Yeah, of course, most people have. And Myers-Briggs, of course, I put first. It's one of the more popular ones. I'm an amateur MBTI, or I probably should get certified because I play one on TV. So, for example, anybody here an ENFJ like me? A couple of them, two. Okay, us ENFJers, right? We tend to not only be connectors, we tend to kind of walk into a room and own it. You know what I'm saying? We love people. We love to, seriously, we love to embrace people. We love to fire people up. We love to get stuff going. Now, an ENTJ, you might be an INTJ. Any ENTJs here?
Is that extrovert?
Extrovert, intuitive, thinker, feeler. Somebody who gets their energy from being with people. They are conceptual thinkers, conceptualizers. They think about problems first and people second, and they want to get stuff done. Those are the CEOs. And I'm only giving you a couple of examples because as you go through assessments like this, you're going to learn something deeper about who you are and how you want to make a difference in the world. And that personality assessment, that behavioral assessment can make a huge difference in helping to figure out where you need to land. Does that make sense? So I'm going to go through Myers-Briggs real quick, okay, just so you understand. This is just an example. So when we talk about an extrovert in Myers-Briggs, we're talking about someone who gets energy from being with people. That does not mean that you're necessarily gregarious or not. It doesn't necessarily mean you are a socializer, but it means when you're around, if you come out of a group like this, you go home and you're psyched, as opposed to the person who's an introvert who comes away from a group like this, you gotta go take a nap. Anybody like that? Okay. You're like, I'm an introvert. And introverts are great, right? We love introverts. But again, I want you to understand it's a little bit of a difference. Now, intuitive, the N, okay, part of, because there are basically 4 dichotomies in Myers-Briggs. And this is the first one, I.E. And the second one starts with N, intuitive. And that's the person who thinks abstractly about issues. Anybody like this? Where you just have this ability to kind of float up in the clouds, And you can put all those details together, right? And make a picture of it. But that's opposite of the person who's more sensory and thinks about details. Anybody like that, man? You just dive on in there, right? A lot of you are accountants and organizers, right? Those kinds of folks. You can find your way through a spreadsheet, yes? Not me, okay? A thinker, right? Someone who considers problems first and people second. You walk into a burning building, man, you're going to figure out how to put out that fire. But the feeler is going to be, oh, how are you doing? Yes, right? It's a little bit of a difference. And a judger is focused on achieving goals, and a perceiver is focused along the journey. Judgers gotta get stuff done. Any judgers here? Goal, goal, goal. But the perceiver, squirrel. Anybody? Right? Squirrel. you never met an option you didn't like. Oh, but there's another option. Oh, let's keep exploring. Yeah. Okay, fine. So I'm only mentioning this to you, and you can take Myers-Briggs online for free. What I'm giving you is just sort of a taste, a sample of one of the ways that you can start thinking about your superpowers, right? Kind of how you're wired naturally, so that you can think about the opportunity that's going to be right for you and how you're going to best serve. Okay. Now, this is kind of the heart and soul of why we're here today. A lot of you have taken this exercise with me, and even if you have, I'd like you to do it again, okay? So I'm going to have you grab a sheet of paper, and I'm going to walk you through this. I call this exercise Passiontivity. The tagline is, where passion and productivity meet. You can't just be passionate, you got to be productive. You got to make sure you're moving the needle forward. And so this 4-box assessment is going to help you to determine areas of high, and I'm going to walk you through this in a second, I know it looks blank right now. It's going to actually walk you through areas of high engagement, stuff you do really well that you love to do and get energy from. Areas of stopgap work, things you do well that you don't particularly enjoy doing. Areas of professional development, and then areas of disengagement. Okay, so it's going to be really, really helpful for you to solidify your brain. Okay, so here we go. I'd like you to label the top of the vertical line high motivation. The bottom of that vertical line, all the way to the bottom of the page, low motivation. On the left side of the horizontal line, high skill, and on the right side, low skill. So let me define these quadrants for you a little more slowly. So on this top left-hand side, high motivation, high skill is high engagement. So these are skills you have. You are a rock star at them, you know it, everybody knows it, and you just can't help yourself. You have to give discretionary effort here. Anybody ever been in a job like that? It didn't feel like work. If you were independently wealthy, you'd still do that kind of work. You know what I'm saying? Ever felt that in your job? Okay, that's that joy that you get. On the right-hand side, high motivation, low skill are areas of professional development. So you don't have a ton of skill in these areas, but you love more. Now, I will tell you, for those of us who, in this room, we've all been working for more than 2.5 minutes. We kind of know the difference between what I call your want-tos and your need-tos. Your want-tos would be things that, well, you get to. So any marketers in the room here? Okay. So today, a marketer, right, might say that their want-to in the area of professional development might be social media analytics. Right? It's your marketer. It's something should be a next level of growth for you. And you probably want to do it. It'd be exciting for you to do it. As opposed to the need-to, well, marketers, and I'm kind of one of them, we don't tend to like numbers very well. So maybe managing budgets might be a need-to. Right? We need to manage budgets better, but not exactly something that we would love. Does that make sense? Okay, want to, need to. And then finally, on the bottom side, we have high skill, low motivation, which is stopgap work. What is stopgap work? These are things you do. You're very, very good at them. Nobody would ever doubt that. But you don't particularly enjoy doing that work. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. Right? A little minor, at least minorly disengaging. Okay. And by the way, this is the freebie for the hiring managers in the room. Have you ever hired somebody or will continue to hire people? If you ever try to promote, particularly a Gen Xer or a millennial, you try to promote them based upon what's actually stopgap for them, they will do two things. They will turn down your offer and they will leave. Why? If that's the best you got. Now, of course, we have to ask people these questions, don't we? Right? To make sure that we know what stopgap is for them. But for yourself, try to make sure when you are reading those job descriptions, when you are networking with people, when you are getting out there and telling the world what you want to do, why you want to do it, how you want to do it, that you're focused on the things that engage you rather than things that are just stopgap. And then And then the other extreme, of course, is the low skill, low motivation, where you're highly disengaged. Anybody ever felt that way? Ever had a part of your job where not so much at all, okay? And if you had any more than 10% of that piece in your job, you're just, right, going to kind of fall down. So make sure that when you're thinking about your opportunities, you're putting these things in these quadrants. So what I want to do is I want to give you about 5 minutes. I'm going to have you fill this out. Now, even when I'm a career coach, and even in my coaching sessions, and this is the very first exercise that I ever take people through, I do have a 2-hour conversation that follows up with this. But actually, I still only give people about 5 minutes, because it really should be an organic exercise, right? You just want to come from a heartfelt place, and you want to get those skills down. So let me give you a couple of ground rules for this. The first thing is, try to focus on your, I'm going to give you the definitions in a second, your hard skills as opposed to your soft skills. A hard skill is a functional skill. It's something that you do. Marketing, research, board relations, right? That kind of thing. It's a functional area. Your soft skill is how you do it. You're detailed, you're analytical, you're creative. So what I'm looking for in this exercise are your hard skills, functional things you do, things you'd find on a resume, things you'd find on a job description, something you'd be asked to do, not how you do it. Why? Because if you just put down how you do it, that doesn't really give context, does it? Because a lot of people can say they're analytical, but in what context? Give the context. Write down the things, the physical things, the functional things that you actually do. And the next thing is when you're stumped, you're done. Okay? This is not an overthinking kind of an exercise. You want it to come from a heartfelt place. The other side is, other thing you should know is, very, very common to have more skills filled out on the left side than the right side. Why? Because people work to their strengths. Would you agree? So you might have a few, 5 to 7 things here, maybe 5 to 7 things here. You might only have a couple in each of those quadrants. Does that make sense? Any questions? Make sense? Okay. Let me give you about 5 minutes. Go ahead and fill it out silently, because at the end we're going to be doing an exercise, a group exercise, and at that point you're going to want to refer back to your passion. So go for it. of the ones who just raised your hand, who would like to be my guinea pig? So I can just do a very quick assessment and show you a little bit about how this works. That means you have to be vulnerable enough in this very safe space to share. Would you be okay, Jeff?
Sure.
Okay. So here's how I'd like you to read it off to me. Okay? We're going to call this quadrant A, B, C, and then D. So I know what they are. So just read the letter and then what you have. No explanation. Just read me what you have.
Okay. A, sales, biz dev, account management, customer relations, problem solving, negotiations.
This is all an A.
Yeah.
Okay.
Problem solving, negotiations, spreadsheets, prospecting, and marketing.
Interesting. B?
B is stopgap.
Yep.
Okay. Budgets, billing, operations, people management.
That's interesting down there. I have a feeling I know why, but okay, go on. Let's see.
Audio visual production.
Oh, I'm sorry. I should have asked you. Are those want tos or need tos? What you're about to read to me, or did you break it down?
They're want tos, but in today's session they
More
might
of
be
need tos. Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. AV.
AV production, media development, business management.
Got it. And then D.
Performance reviews and P&L.
Does that all make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So without being Captain Obvious here, right? Jeff, you are a master connector. Right? You are able to find the deal, and you're able to make that deal happen, but primarily through this kind of engagement, right? It's got to have that people connection for you to be really, really happy, which is why everything in your low is all the process and the detail and the production and the, right, kind of the, right? So you've got the people side up here, you got the process side down here, which makes perfect sense, right? Because we all work to our strengths, but more importantly, there's a passion coming out of you want to make sure that those connections are happening, okay? And anything that's process oriented is going to slow you down.
So when people say, how do you do it?
Yeah.
I don't know the answer.
Right. But you know with whom to do it.
Yeah.
He knows with whom to get it done, okay? Now, we could sit here for another 2 hours, right, and go into much deeper psychoanalysis, but I want you to...
Would you guys mind about that?
I know. But do you see the power of that? And then just in 1 minute, right, I was able to assess that, and you can too, and you can actually, you don't necessarily have to work with a professional coach like myself, but if you want to do this with a peer, right, so colleagues, have people walk you through this to be your objective ear to hear what maybe you're not even hearing. Not to say that you didn't know that about yourself, Jeff, right? But when it comes, maybe just someone can help you with analyzing and assessing what's the optimal opportunity. And by the way, in our kind of market, might I say, always strive for 100% because only then can you understand what an 80% job looks like. Strive for 100, then you can know what 80% looks like. Okay, go for optimal when you're thinking about these things. Okay, that's just a very quick little snapshot. All right, here's another little exercise that you can do to help you kind of broaden the picture. We just talked to you about developing your lane, okay? So figuring out this passiontivity, figuring out kind of what's going on internal. This is another little way of figuring out what are your motivators. So in the middle here we have who. We've mentioned this before, your passion, your personality, however you want to assess that. They kind of go a little bit deeper to the core of who you be, right? Your what comes from the high box of passiontivity. Where are you highly skilled and highly motivated? Remember, that's where the juice is, okay? That's what's going to motivate you. That's what's going to excite you. Now, your where, this is actually a couple different things. This is either tribal, right, industry mission. I actually put location in here, physical where as well, okay? Well, think about it. You know, some of us are in professions that really belong in DC, or really belong in Northern Virginia, or really belong in New York City. Come on, okay? We're not for everybody. We're for whoever we are. And location can absolutely factor in to where you need to do what you need to do. But again, it could also have a tribal factor as well. And so be thinking about this. And for some of you who think that you're lane people, you might be secret tribal people. You never know, right? Think about deeply. If I said to you, is there an industry or is there a sector, is there a mission that you deeply want to serve? Like really put yourself to it and think about it. You might say, well actually, yeah, like I really have this thing for healthcare. And then you keep talking about, well, why? Well, Obamacare, this, that, or hospital, whatever. Maybe you had experience in that sector. Maybe it was only one time for a few years, but man, something really resonated with you. And maybe, just maybe, you want to tribalize your brand. And you want to now show the world, right, that you are going to be focused on serving that particular tribe. When? Okay? when relates a little bit to the where. Work-life balance, travel, commute, all that fun stuff. So if you live in Tyson's, you're not going to want a job in Annapolis. Do I get a yes and amen? Okay. Clearly, I mean, that's a pretty extreme example. But that stuff matters, doesn't it? Don't we have lives? A lot of us have families and children and whatever it is. Well, some of us have fuller lives than others, but is that an issue for people? You need to factor that in. Now, why am I being captain obvious? Well, of course I would think about commute. You know what? A lot of people don't. A lot of people don't. You'd be shocked. I have a lot of clients that work with me, and they'll say, oh, I'm putting my hat in the ring for the blah, blah job. And I say, wait a second, you live in Alexandria, and that's in Gaithersburg. Oh, yeah, no, I'm just going to see what happens. The job's not moving. You might have to, but the job's not going anywhere, right? So what happens, you go through the entire process, you spend all this time, of course they have too, only to realize, really can't do Gaithersburg, right? Think about it in advance. And are you willing to make that move? Are you willing to make that commute sacrifice for more than just a paycheck? Remember, you're investing in them and they're investing in you. And always remember the employer side of this equation. You're doing a dance with them. It's not all about, it's absolutely partly your needs, but it's absolutely about their deliverables. Is that true? You've all, how many of you have been in hiring managers? You know what, right? When you know what it's like when you're looking for a candidate, what are all the boxes that you're checking? Can you do the job? Are you a good culture fit? Is it the right commute? Is it the right compensation? Will you have the right skills to do it? Are you? They always walk a mile in the employer's shoes as much as you want them to walk a mile in yours. Why? This is the deeper one. Why do you do what you do? What is your legacy? What is your legacy? Now this is very esoteric stuff, I tell you. A lot of people don't even go here, especially when you're in transition. You're like, I just got to get a job, paycheck, and all this. This is deep. This is important. We are here on this planet for a very short time. God has given us some amazing gifts and talents to serve the world, right? Why are we serving? Who are we serving? What is the legacy that we want to leave? I personally want to create wildly engaged workforces. In workforces where people are passionate to show up every day, passionate to do what they do, passionate to serve, where people know who they are, where the employer knows who they are and what their mission is, and wants to find people who are equally passionate about serving in their, right? That's me. That's my legacy. And it manifests in all these different ways, right? I want to challenge you to find your deeper legacy. How? Now, how could be a lot of different things. I kind of put a smorgasbord in here. And I said, how could be, what kind of corporate culture that you're looking for? It could be the size of the organization. It could be the supervisor relationship. It could be, do you want something that's sort of footloose and fancy for like Google, or Motley Fool? You want something a little more structured? Culture matters, right? The resources that you're going to have matters. Think about the context in which you want to work. I'm calling that your how. And for those of us who've been working for more than a minute, we kind of have an idea of what works and what doesn't, yes? Okay, just think about this as one of your variables. And obviously how much does play a factor. I notice I didn't put it first, I kind of put it last. Yes, we need to pay the bills, obviously. Okay, we need to have that kind of income. And your expectations are very important. And by the way, I'm going to toss in a little freebie here. I don't normally talk about this in this particular presentation, but I get this question a lot, so I'm going to actually give you a little bit of a formula for how you want to negotiate salary. Can I do that? Is that cool? Yeah. And I come by this because, as I mentioned, I've been recruiting for a couple of decades now, and I've been coaching for a long time, and this is a question that comes up all the time. How do you balance it, right? How do you not price yourself out of the market? How do you not go on? Anybody know what I'm talking about? And they all ask you, so what are you looking for? And you're like, that, right? And we all we just go quiet because we don't know. What most people do, if you are like most people will say, well, I'm looking for a range between this number and this number. How many of you have ever done that? Let me give you another way not to do that. Please, because if you give them two numbers, and I'm going to make up two numbers, I'm going to say 90 is the bottom number and 110 is the top, okay? If you say 90 to 110, what are they going to offer you? 91. Yeah, right. Generous, we'll throw in a little bit, okay? Negotiating salary is like buying and selling a house. Anybody ever bought and sold one of those? Somebody wants to pay as little, and somebody wants to get as much. And it's the same dance that you're doing in your job search. So let me give you a little form. This is definitely worth writing down. In fact, I've had people memorize this, let it roll off your tongue. And the next time somebody says, so what are you looking for? So let me give you the phrase, okay? It goes like this. I'm seeking. Some of you actually probably say this with me. I've said this so many times in other words. I'm seeking a total cash compensation package. I'm seeking a total cash compensation package in the, now put a blank right there and I'll tell you how to fill that in a second, in the blank range. Now let me unpack that statement for you so you understand there's like actual rationale behind all of those words, all right? I'm seeking a total cash compensation package. Now, the word cash stuck in there before the word compensation means more than just health and welfare benefits. We're talking actual cash. We're talking 401k match. We're talking bonuses, incentive comp, anything that has cash value, not just your medical premiums. Because as you probably know, those of you who have anything to do with HR, and I know my friend Tom in the back does, benefits cost an employer 30 to 40% on top of your salary. Why do you think they are so risk averse in this market? It's very, very expensive to keep people on the books. Do you know this? Very expensive and very, very risky, especially if you're not in sales. Because frankly, honestly, let's just be honest, salespeople are really the only people who justify their existence every single day because they bring in the money. Everybody else pretty much would be considered overhead. Valuable, everybody's valuable, but overhead, which means that it's a higher risk for an employer to keep you on the bench if you're not actually earning your keep. Does that make sense? Let me just be really straight about this. So, the total cash comp means everything, including extra money. Now, in the blank range now, notice how I said, remember I said don't use two numbers? How many numbers should you use? One. What's the one number? Well, this is a very interesting question. You want to look at two different factors. Number one, what number would make you do a happy dance? Now, I'm not saying 1.5 million. I'm just saying what number would make you do a happy dance that fits the second core category that's realistic for the role that you're looking for. And how do you figure that out? Well, first of all, we've all been working for a while, right? So we kind of usually have a general range. You also have to look at other factors. And maybe you're switching from nonprofit to for-profit or vice versa, and there's some mitigating factors. Maybe you were in an organization that had a pay freeze rate for a number of years, and maybe you're a little bit under market. But generally speaking, if you can go ahead into the market and ask colleagues, and maybe go to salary.com works some of the times, but within your tribe, within your lane, start to tease it out and figure out what a nice, comfortable range would be for that salary or for that role. Pick the higher number. Hello? You can always negotiate down, but you can never negotiate. I gotta say that again. You can always negotiate down, but not up. Always start high. It's the first rule of negotiating. Always start high. And I especially want to look at all the women in this room. Hello? One of the reasons why we still have pay inequity in this country is because a lot of women do not value what they're worth. Look, I see it all the time. I see two offers come in. I see a guy and a girl, a man and a woman, and I will tell you bottom dollar, most of the men will negotiate for more, and most of the women will say, nope, great, I'll take it. Whatever you want to give me, I'll take. In fact, thankfully, the DOL is finally catching up to all of this, and there are some new laws coming out in the country, and I don't know who's going to be watching this video and if this is, in the future, and if these are going to actually come to pass. But Massachusetts has already passed a law that says that employers are no longer allowed to ask candidates what their past earnings were. They're not, in Massachusetts, not allowed to say, what was your last salary? Why? Because actually, they say that it continues to create the pay gap. And it adversely impacts women and minorities. They tend to be underpaid anyway, and then they just keep getting underpaid, right? And then there are a few other states that they're looking at that. I think Maryland is actually on that list right now. So just FYI, okay? Just know that this is coming. But at the very least, they can always say, what do you want? That's a legitimate question. They should ask you what you want, okay? So let's play this out. I'm seeking a total cash compensation package in the $100,000 range. Let's just say 100K is your happy dance. Notice I put the word range at the end of that statement. That gives you an out. Why? Because what happens when, if and when, the employer says, well, clears their throat, waits 3 seconds and says, well, actually, the highest we can go for this position is 85. By the way, they're only going to share that number with you if you're above their highest number. They're not going to share it with you any other time. You have to be above their number for them to give that up. It's very rich information. So then write this down. This is how you follow up. And you say something that, and they'll say, oh, sorry, the highest we can go is 85, and they'll say, do you have any flexibility? Well, actually, Mr. Employer, Ms. Employer, yes, I do. As I mentioned, I'm seeking a total cash comp package in the 100K range. And then your next question to them is, what can we, not you, what can we do to get me closer to my target number? Oh, well, what will they do now? They'll start selling you on the benefits. Yes, they absolutely will, right? And then you're like, great, because I'm looking for a package, okay? But again, it has to be high. Now, by the way, flip side of that. If that 100K is in their range, what are they going to say? Great, and they'll write it down and they'll move on to the next question. And then it's a non-issue. And then you are now eligible for your happy dance number. Does this make sense? Mm-hmm. Whole different way of looking at this world. Does that help people? Okay, great. I wanted to spend time there because I know that's one of those tricky questions. All right. So, articulating your brand. Where your passions solve people's what?
Problems.
Say it again. Solve their what? Problems. May I even say their urgent problems. Employers will not hire anybody unless they're trying to solve urgent. In fact, you won't hire anybody. Are you going to hire a plumber unless you got a leaky faucet? In fact, let me go one level deeper. People like to hire specialists and not generalists. Would you agree? Yeah. So if you have that leaky faucet, are you calling the plumber or are you calling the general handyman? Why the plumber? Because he's a specialist. And you're willing to pay that exorbitant fee because you need the expert. Watch that. You're willing to pay an exorbitant fee because you need the expert. Think about yourself that way. So here are the ways that you can articulate your brand. First, of course, is your resume. Now, I'm going to actually show you a couple of samples in a minute. This cannot be understated as one critical piece of expressing your brand and what we would call your digital footprint. Why? Because resumes are all online these days, yes? Most people have what I call a very vanilla looking resume, right? Now, why would we have vanilla looking resumes? Because nobody's taught us how to do it any way differently. We've just been doing the same resume for the last 20 years, haven't we? And we have our name, and we maybe have this little summary statement, and we have a bunch of bullets underneath our resume, under our job description. And what do they say? Remember Charlie Brown? Wah, wah. It's true. And frankly, when a recruiter is doing that scan, by the way, how many seconds does it take them to do the resume scan? According to the ladders, 6 seconds. Ladders does survey, 6 seconds. I like to say 2.5, but really 2.5 and 6 is kind of the same thing. They're doing a very quick scan. What are they looking for? Keywords. That match what? And what do most of us do? We give them something generic. Oh, maybe we have a couple of different versions. We give them something generic, and we assume that when they do that wonderful little quick scan, that they're going to take our wah and actually make something out of it. Because even if you do a whole bunch of little dots, namely bullets, how do they treat the rest of your bullets? It's like one big block of text. That's all they see. Trust me, I know. That's what I do for a living, okay? I'm going to give you some examples, right? It happens to be my own template. You do not have to use my template. I just want you to see another way, okay, of going through this. So hold that thought. When we're done with this slide, I'm going to get into that. Your LinkedIn summary. Now notice I didn't just put your profile. Your profile absolutely is critically important, but your summary is extremely important. The LinkedIn summary, actually a lot of people don't even fill out their LinkedIn summary at all. Some people don't even know it's there. It goes right underneath your headline. You know, you've got your picture and your name and all that. The next section down is your summary. Anybody have a summary? Okay. Most people's summaries are the equivalent of their resumes. Now fine, it doesn't have a whole lot of bullets, but what is it? Vanilla. What do most people say? Because no one ever teaches us to do it differently. It says 25 years of experience working in the block. Tell me how that's captivating. Tell me how that's compelling. Tell me how that shows your brand. It doesn't. Again, I'm going to give you some samples of what you can do. Your LinkedIn summary needs to say something. It needs to say who you are, what you do, why you do what you do, who you serve, what urgent problems you help to solve. Are you getting this? You need to be able to stand out, and let me tell you, your LinkedIn summary is actually the longer version of that lovely little question we love at the beginning of interviews. Tell me about you. And who likes to answer that question? If you think about it in advance and you create a summary that actually answers that in a meaningful way, the employer will actually or could actually see it as a pre-interview, because they're getting to know something about you beyond your resume. And your resume, can you write in first person? No, it's not couth, right? We still don't do that. And we don't write long narratives. We talk about our past experience. But your summary actually should be speaking about your aspirations. It should be speaking about where you're going, not only what you've done. What you've done only helps an employer to figure out if you've got some basic skills. If you've actually done, if you've had some accomplishments that maybe, just maybe, will be transferable to the job that they're hiring you for. But your summary, that should speak to your passion. That should speak to who you want to serve and what those problems are you want to solve. Does this make sense? Past base is your resume, future base is your summary. Okay, how important is networking? I know you've heard this 1,000 times in a group like this. How important is networking? Huge, crazy, amazingly big, massive, ginormous. 83% of all jobs are gotten through personal networking. 83%. Over the holidays, like the day before Christmas, I got a call from someone funny enough. I actually happened. Oh, he was working right next door. Isn't that interesting? Somebody I happened to place, okay, several years ago. He had just lost his job. He called me. He was one of the first people he called. He said, Shira, can you help me? I'm like, I don't know. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And his name is Rob. I said, Rob, wait a second. I was, not kidding, I was just speaking with the executive director of the ABC Association. And I said, did you know they're hiring? He says, no. They hadn't even posted a job. It was just a kind of a backdoor kind of conversation that this woman and I were having. And I said, Rob, would you like me to make an introduction? He goes, absolutely, I did. And he got the job. Wasn't posted, was actually a twinkle in her eye, right time, right connection. It was a friendly referral on my part. I'm like, have at it. Have at it. Have you ever seen that happen? It happens all the time. All the time. Another statistic for you, 75% of all jobs are hidden from the market. Never even make it to the job boards. Never even make it. You know that expression, Jeff, you probably know this well in sales. People do business with people they know, like, and trust. All the more in the employment world. Why do you think employers have these things called employer referral programs? Why? Because birds of a feather flock together. Right? Friend of my friend is my friend. And so they want to get referred in. They want, Gerald, they want you. They want Ken, who knows Mary, the hiring manager. Ken say, oh, Gerald's amazing. And make that connect. Are you going to go to the top of the pile? Of course. Because you're referred by someone that they trust. I can give you so many examples of this. Does this make sense? This is why attending groups like this, attending groups in your tribe and in your name, this group is fantastic because of the diversity. Now, at the same time, it's a diverse group, right? So you may or may not be sitting next to somebody who's new. So you should be meeting people because you never know who knows who. But at the same time, when you can go to special and you can start doing the tribal dance and the lane dance and the lingo and the, oh my gosh, and you know, public relations, blah, 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 right? You do that and people get that you're a thought
leader.
Ooh, we're going to talk about that. So here we go, thought leadership. What is thought leadership? Pray do tell. What is it?
At the forefront of
The forefront, yes.
research, study on a certain topic.
Research, study. It's showing that you're a forerunner in your What are the 2 words you've been using? Your tribe and your lane. Basic bottom line. Bottom line. If you have been working in that area for any longer than a nanominute, and you got something to say it. Say it. And where can you say it? Here's just a handful of modern ways to do this. Blogging, social media, LinkedIn groups, trade articles, I can keep going on and on. Everybody's a citizen journalist now, right? We all have the digital sphere to say something to the people who need to hear it, the people who want to hire us, if only they knew we had something to say. Anybody ever been part of a profession, an online community, a listserv of sorts, right? Where your colleagues are talking back and forth, and maybe you jump in and you answer a question, or you post something, and people are like, oh yeah, great, I know she knows something about something. And then somebody hears about an opening, and they're like, there's this woman who's been posting stuff, and she really seems, you should call her. That's how that happens. You're blogging, you're posting in your trade publications or in other kinds of articles. And all of a sudden, that your name gets around, your brand, because every job seeker is an ink. Hello? Every job seeker is an ink. Laura or Laura? Laura. So Laura, you're an ink, whether you know it or not. You think you're looking for a full-time job, but actually you're selling yourself. And frankly, especially in this market, where there's really not much of a difference when an employer goes out and they say, I'm looking for a W-2 employee, or I'm looking for a 1099 consultant or vendor, you tell me what the difference is. One is supposedly long-term, and one is supposedly short-term, but I gotta tell you, sometimes those things can flip, right? Sometimes your full-time job could actually be short-term, and your 1099 can actually take you, right, for a long, long time. And that's a whole other topic we'll talk about a little bit at the end here. But do you see where I'm going with this? You need to be on the forefront and saying something meaningful to the people who need to know you know something. And then interviewing, obviously. Now, interviewing, whole other presentation. But just the quick about this. The interview is not only for the employer to know that you are qualified. I mean, it is about that. It's not just about that. Nor should it just be to know that you are a good culture fit, although it's partly about that too. It needs to be about you showing them how you can solve their what? What problems? Urgent problems. That means, come on, broken record over here. Gotta say it over and over, just like a preacher, right? Over and over again. How are you going to let them know this? How? Because you're going to do so much research, you're going to be so ahead of the curve, you're going to come in there and say, hey guys, not only have I learned, but here's what I know about where you're going, here's what I know about the tribe, the industry, here are some of the ideas that I have. Let's engage in a strategic conversation. Let's get into it, let's tussle a little bit and do a dance. Most candidates do not take the opportunity that is right there before them. They don't. Most people sit, bring a suit, hey, ask me a question, I'm here, I'm ready. I'm ready with my SAR stories, situation, action, result, I can give you. And then what? They Q, you A, they Q. Doesn't that get a little bit monotonous? And you're sitting there looking pretty, right? And you're making sure. But they need to know who you are. They need to know what it's going to be like when you show up on day one. And it's not just in your pretty little interview suit. Come on, be real. Don't they need to know how you're going to solve those problems? How else are you going to do that? First of all, unless you know what problems you solve, and then you can actually articulate how you're going to solve them. Is this making sense? All right, let's go here. Oh, you have a question. Yes, I have an answer.
Yeah, how do you protect your own intellectual property? You go into an interview and they pick your brain on solving problems, and you don't get the job, but then you've left information there.
Here's what I have to say about that, because I get that question actually a lot. Be a go-giver. Be a go-giver. Is it a little bit risky to put your IP out there? Absolutely. But any organization worth their salt will not use that IP. And if they do, it's not an organization you want to work in. You don't have to take the risk. I would encourage you to take the risk. A lot of people don't want to do that, okay, and I understand that. But you know what? Here's something else, and I want to flip it around. I'm actually going to put my consultant hat on when I say this, okay? So think that we're all consultants right now, because I get that question also in the consulting world. And there's a gentleman by the name of David A. Fields, A. Fields. Any consultants in this room, anybody want to be a consultant, I highly recommend you write down this guy's name, David A. Fields. He says something that I think is brilliant. He says, in the consulting world, he said, there is no such thing as giving away too much intellectual property. You know why? Because the more IP you give them, the more they're going to realize they need you to solve the problems. That's what, and I have wholeheartly agree. You give people, you fire hose them with all these ideas and all this great stuff, and they go, whoa, 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 we need this guy to actually help us solve it. Does that make sense? It's a little bit of a risk, yes, but to me, the benefits outweigh the risks. That's something just for you to chew on, for your own personal choice. Okay, so going back here.
Can I add something?
Yes.
You can't fall off the floor.
You can't fall off. Yeah, right?
If you're down on the floor, you don't have a job, you can't go any lower. Do what you can to go higher.
Do what you can to set yourself apart. Okay, so I'm going to show you here a couple of examples. This is speaking of IP. All right, let's peek back the cover here. I'm going to give you a little bit of mine. Okay, now in full disclosure, I'm going to show these couple of resumes to you. These are resumes, templates that I've designed that I usually give. I work with my clients on. So I'm not going to actually. I'm not in a position to email them to you, but I am going to be showing them to you for whatever you can glean online. That's sort of my compromise. Is that cool? Okay, that's what you can see. So I'm going to show you a couple of examples. I'm going to show you the example of a marketing professional, and these are redacted. Okay, a marketing professional as well as an IT executive, just to show you a little bit of the difference, but very simple. Okay, so everybody see this? Okay. So here's the concept. Here's the concept. So first of all, the layout matters because it really can showcase to an employer that you're an organized thinker, that you get it, that everything is streamlined. What you do is you want to be able to say something at the top of the resume that's your career headline. Now, I'm a believer in this. Not everybody does this. And talk to 5 resume designers and you'll get 7 responses, right? We all have our opinions on this. This is mine. You're welcome to use whatever makes sense for you. So I believe in having a career headline. That, by the way, is customizable to the job. So this is what I would call the all-purpose flower resume. So this, obviously her name's not Sally, but Sally could give this resume to her colleagues, right? People in her tribe, in her lane, hey, I'm looking, right? Put out your generic resume. However, if you need spelt flour, wheat flour, cake flour, you customize. And where do you customize? Actually, this is very customizable. I'm going to scroll down in a second. The first place actually is right here, this career headline. Because we say marketing communications professional, but it might be that the particular job that this person's looking for has more of a digital marketing, slant. Even maybe more of a social media marketing slant, what have you. And that person could change this headline accordingly. And right here, underneath, okay, we actually called out a few of the big highlights of some of their keywords, had some of the other keywords down here, and then you'll see here that next to every single of those paragraphs, and I hope you can see this with the lighting, you see how all those keywords are what? Bolded. This helps just in a nanosecond for that recruiter to scan down this resume and read something, okay? Because otherwise, if I didn't have these, you can see these are actually decent-sized accomplishments bullets. We didn't get rid of the content, but we labeled it. When you label it, it makes it easy on the eye. So it's almost like a website, right? When you go to a website, you're not just going to read everything. You're going to click on various icons, right? If I want to read more, this is the I want to read more. Okay, so that's one.
Can I ask?
Yes.
I see it's in paragraph form.
Yes.
Do you prefer that to bulleted accomplishments?
Well, first of all, these actually are bulleted accomplishments. There are bullets there. Thank you.
I see. You just
now there's yes. It's bullets, but it's labeled bullets. That's the kicker. It's such a small and subtle difference. It makes a difference. It makes a huge difference when an employer can act. And by the way, that's the other place you can customize. You customize all of those what? Keywords. At the top and all throughout. Just for example, last night, a coaching client of mine, we had done one of these. For her, and she decided to apply to a job. And we had this particular bullet, and we called it, this is also in communications, we called it branded journalism. We had a reason why we said it that way. But in the job description, I noticed, they talked a lot about media relations. Well, it turns out that particular bullet actually was all about media relations. We hadn't called it that. It was one quick change. Flip it out. It's true, the media relations, we hadn't called it. You see what I'm saying? You just flip out and you relabel based upon the actual keywords that employer is using in that posting. English is a very flexible language, would you agree? A lot of synonyms, okay? Event planning, meeting planning, kind of similar, right? They want one, you had the other, swap it out, if appropriate. Rarely would you actually have to change the name, the accomplishment itself, because oftentimes buried within that one accomplishment could be 3 different competencies. Pull out the one that's right. Do you have a question?
Yes, sometimes you'll actually see this in a job description where
yes, they will use.
Do you suggest that we follow that verbatim? Or?
Now, you don't necessarily have to follow it if they said blah, 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 but pull out whatever those competencies are. You don't, in other words, you don't have to order it. Exactly.
Right.
It's fine if you do.
I mean, do you want to make it look like you're copying with this?
Well, it's not about copying. It's tailoring. Employers want you to tailor. Can I just say that? Yeah. They want you. They want to know you took the time to apply to that job, not just any job. Yeah. Same thing with the cover letter. That's a whole other conversation, right? Mm-hmm. That needs to be customized too. By the way, cover letters are only read 2% of the time. But let me say that 2% of the time. But let me restate that with a slightly different emphasis. But they are read 2% of the time. So that means if you're going to write it well. Speak from your heart. This very person I was just talking about who sent me this resume for this job, she sent me a sample cover letter, which I told her this morning I'm going to redact and actually share it with other clients. It was so beautifully written because she spoke to the mission of the organization. How she related to it, her value, how she really wants to contribute. I mean, wrote it. This was no generic template. I mean, she spoke from her heart. It was beautiful. And that's what employers are looking for. If they're going to read it, that's what they're looking for. Now, they may not read it, and if they don't read it, that means this has to stand on its own 2 feet. That's why you want to have those competencies, yeah.
You may address this or not, but then is there a benefit to posting your resume in all these job banks if it's going to go in as a generic?
It's a great question. Not a perfect system. We're not in a perfect system. It's one of those things that you're going to have to make that executive decision. Okay? If you're going to go ahead and post it on different boards, try to make it as close to what you think it is. Again, that all-purpose flour. Even though there might be some subtle differences, you're right. You can't keep changing your resume for every single job board, what have you. But that's why you need to do this with intention the first time. When you do write it the first time, make sure that the keywords that you're using are the ones that are proliferating throughout the job descriptions that you generally see. If you're in communications and everybody's asking for social media analytics, use that competency, over and over again. Obviously, there'll be subtleties, but do your best to at least get the 80%. Yeah.
So, could you use this format, let's say, more for a functional resume? Like if you took out the company,
actually, if I can press pause right there, recruiters do not like functional resumes. Let me explain what a functional resume is and then why they don't like it. Okay. Functional resumes are basically, they kind of look like this, but they're not chronological, right? So
you have your dates.
You would have your there's one very important reason why employers do not like functional resumes, because they don't know where you accomplish those things. If all they have is this sort of let's just say a one-pager of things like this with a competency and then an accomplishment, right? And then at the bottom you have this little work history, company title date, company title date. The problem is the employer looks down and well, I don't know, where did she do that thing? Where did she do? There's no chronology, there's no context for any of that. So they just sort of, in fact, just and I'll take your question. A lot of times, not saying this particular case, but a lot of times the reason why people do functional resumes is they're trying to hide something else, like tenure or a gap. Employers know that. They think, a lot of times psychologically, the reason why you did that is, well, what are they hiding? Wait, they're going to look for it, which may not be the case. but oftentimes it'll put in a flag doesn't have to be there. Yeah.
So switching industries, let's say, I was working in HR and I don't want to work in HR again. All my roles are HR related.
Right.
So it keeps putting you in a box.
No question. And of course, that's a deeper conversation. We have that one a lot with people. You can imagine. I help people change careers all the time. But my quick tip for people who are either changing lanes, which HR is a lane, or changing tribes, or particularly a lane, depending on how severe of a shift it is. I mean, 180 degrees. I mean, you want to go into rocket science, NASA will look at you and say, go get your PhD. You know?
Yeah.
But outside of that, if you're doing what I call a quarter shift to the right, something related, and I don't know what it is, and I know we can't get involved in this right now, but if it's something in that vein, where maybe you actually have some accomplishments, some job history that relates, you can actually pull it out. And I'll give you a very quick example. As one of my one of my success stories is had a guy once who's an attorney. And why did he become an attorney? Because his parents wanted him to become. Oh, you're right, you've heard this story. And one day he's just like, Shira, I don't know what I'm going to be when I grow up. I don't want to be an attorney. We figure out, what is he? A writer. Writer. Loves to write. Okay. So what did we do? We took his legal resume, pulled out every single aspect of the writing work he had ever done, relabeled him as aspirationally what he wanted to do, changed his LinkedIn summary that he was an aspiring writer, blah, blah, blah. He ended up getting a job as a journalist with a trade publication in the legal field. So kept this similar tribe, changed the lane. Another quick example. If I had my computer here, I would pull this up because I actually have a sample resume about this. Last year, had a client who she worked for a major management consulting firm, and that was she was project manager, what have you. She had an epiphany too. What does she want to be? An environmentalist. Wants to save the oceans, save the coral reefs, all this stuff. Had done scuba diving trips and realized, hey, I want to do this. How in the world were we going to, change it up? Well, it turns out she had really, really strong administrative skills, project management. Well, we looked online and we found this hidden job. I can't say the name of the organization because we're being videoed here. But she found a job. We found a job opening with a major environmental nonprofit for an assistant to the president. Changed her resume, pulled out all of the administrative work that she had done, changed her career title, and said something to the effect of, recareering or exploring careers in the environmental sector, beautiful cover letter, the whole 9 yards. She got the job. Because they could see that she had the skills, but she was shifting her tribe. Yes?
How long is too long of a resume these days?
Great question. It used to be, back in the day, you'll probably still hear people say, don't go more than 2 pages. That's not the case anymore because we just scroll down. 3 is perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with 3 pages. The only time you'd want to go more than that, well, first of all, if you're an academic, and they've got 15, or actually, if you're applying, the government's a whole different conversation. But government contractors do often like to see multiple pages. Why? Because they're submitting your resume to the government, and the government wants to see every time you tie your shoelaces, right? So that's the only reason why you go more. But otherwise, 3 pages these days, not a problem whatsoever.
And how many years do you go back?
How many? I guess I should have anticipated because that's the next question I would get. Yeah. So for folks, over a certain age, I would 20 years is fine. 20 years is fine. Nothing wrong with that. More than that starts to get a little dicey. You can have after that one of 2 things. Either nothing, just go back about 20 years, and that's not a magic number. That's just a general number. You can actually have another section that we call prior experience. And prior experience, underneath that, you would say company title, no dates. No dates. It does show you have more experience, and particularly if you work for an organization that you want to showcase, you want, listen, I work for the blah blah, the glammy kind of, you need to know I work there. That's why you would probably do that. Not everybody does, but you're certainly welcome to. Okay. I'm going to show you one more example of somebody in the IT world, how we use this. Okay. Same concept. Okay. All right, same idea. You can do this for anything. Now, by the way, I happen to show you two resumes that are lane oriented, right? One's for IT and one was marketing. But you can absolutely tribalize this. Why? You could first of all put the name of your tribe, right, in nonprofit IT executive or healthcare, what have you, or whatever your tribe is. And even underneath there, you could use tribal terminology. So for example, in my association world, we would talk about things like a member engagement. Well, no other tribe out there would use that term, but we would, because it means something to us, okay? Use the tribal lingo if you want to show that you're actually a legit part of that tribe, okay? So that's that. And then I want to show you the sample of,
Excuse me.
yes,
Is there anything about the education in the resume?
yes, absolutely. Always goes, well,
With
usually,
years?
I'm sorry?
With years or
No.
no years?
Yeah, if you're trying to avoid age discrimination, do not put years. Absolutely no reason to put years whatsoever. And you want to put some other things, your volunteer leadership, if you have other certifications, anything else that will, that will sort of boost your candidacy. Yeah.
How do you avoid the ageism if you're looking at the application's asking you when you went to college, when you went to high school?
Great question. It's an excellent question. So first of all, they should not, it is illegal for them, and by the way, the government is the only one, don't ask me why. I've asked Corliss Jackson, our OPM favorite person, why the government allows this, but in the private sector, it is illegal for them to ask you when you graduated high school. Do people still do it? Yes, they should not, just letting you know. That said, go ahead and don't fill it out. It's your prerogative not to fill out those dates.
Except that in the electronic apps, I just did one, it will not continue unless you fill it out.
Listen, sometimes you're right, and this is why it's a flawed system. This is exactly right. Shouldn't be that way. Should be that you should just be able to, avoid doing it. But at the end of the day, listen, I mean, I hope that none of you are screened out because of age. Unfortunately, that is rampant. It's just flawed. Do your very best to avoid that, but it is what it is. And I really can't get around City Hall other than to say, listen, at the end of the day, after if for whatever reason you don't get the job, you might want to call HR and say, listen, I noticed that this was on your application. My understanding is that that's not allowed, and I would highly encourage. And frankly, a lot of people don't even know. You'd be shocked at how many people actually do not know that is illegal. Yeah.
What do you do when actually all you have to do is put your name into a Google search, and up comes not only your LinkedIn, but estimate of when you were born,
and this is the other side of being in a digital world. Okay, it really is. I mean, there are things you can do sometimes to say, if you're really conscious about it, to sanitize some of those things. There are actually companies out there that will help you sanitize your digital footprint. What is it reputation.com, something like that? Or are there other groups like that can get, and they can clean all kinds of stuff up if you're really concerned about that. But at the end of the day, you are who you are, right? You're going to walk in and they're going to know you. And they're going to see, and that's that. You just want to prevent any reason for them discriminating in advance. Hopefully they never do at any point, but at least that there's that barrier there, that little firewall, so that you can actually get yourself seen and then sell yourself on the benefits of your own merit. Yeah.
The other thing is also some sites you can actually write to and have them pull that down, take out that reference, and then you can also just post new stuff. If you update anything in your LinkedIn or anything else, just push that stuff further down. If you put out anything else, if you do another blog post, just keep pushing stuff down.
I did that with white pages, actually. I asked them to remove it, and they responded.
Yeah.
And Shira,
yes,
just when you're doing the online applications,
yes.
again, you hit that compensation line. And they ask you, what are you looking for?
Right.
Online, and you can't get past it.
Yes, I get it. So if you do not have, watch this, if you don't have, I'm trying to multitask here. Thank you. If you don't have an option to actually, one of those little boxes where you can write in, if you can't say I'm seeking a total fee, write something, if you can't do that, put in your top number. Now, is it a risk? Yes. I keep using that word a lot, okay? You have choices here. What I want to encourage you to do is start on the higher end. In fact, I'll give you another very recent example the other day. A coaching client of mine was applying, and he used this thing, and he put into this application a high number, like higher than he was really expecting. Here's what happened. The employer called him. I could bring him in and he would tell you this. employer called him and said, I'll use the numbers since we're not talking names. It was he put in 150, okay? But his last position, he was like 120, something like that. So we went high, because and when we looked at the 990s in this organization, we figured that that job actually would pay at least that, if not more. In fact, we thought it would pay in the 170s. And so he called, the employer called him, said, hey, we love your resume, blah, 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 all this stuff. We can't actually go as high as 150. Now, of course, that shocked him because of what but even so, people make different decisions. And they said to him, do you have any flexibility? He didn't even have to put the whole total cash thing. All he had to do is put that number. They still liked what they saw enough to not screen him out and ask him if he had any flex. And then he was able to say, well, yes, and he picked a lower number, and it was fine, and now he's moving forward. So as long as you're somewhere within the range, if you're not asking for double, right, what you should be making, if they like what they see otherwise, 99 times out of 100, they'll call you and they'll ask you if they can negotiate. Yeah.
What about just saying 0 or negotiable?
Mm-hmm. That actually can come across as kind of cagey to an employer. I'm not saying you shouldn't per se, like you can't, but when they say that, here's the problem. Employers want to know that they're managing their time well. Mm-hmm. When you say negotiable, they have absolutely no idea if you fit within their range, and what they don't want to do is get to the end of the process and then you guys are $50,000 off. That's the issue on their side, and that's why this total cash comp thing is a nod to that, to say here's a number for you to consider me in. I'm just going to give you a higher number.
I like that. I'm just wondering, is the computer, nixing people out?
So that's another question as well, and that has more to do with the size of the organization. The larger the organization, the more they have several hundred people or more, the more likely it is they're going to use something called an ATS, an applicant tracking system, the black hole. Yeah. Recruiters don't like ATSs either, by the way. They are just as frustrated on their side. They're like, we're not finding each other, right? Because to your point, oftentimes they've got hundreds of thousands even of applications. They're sitting there on their side typing in keywords, hey computer, give me back, the right resumes, and if they put in, I want candidates who said, 100 to 120, and you put 150, you're right. Flawed system, okay? So you've got to do your best. Now, of course, the smaller the organization, the more likely it is it's going to go to one person, or maybe even an email address. That's even better when you don't have to worry about that. But you're right, the online systems, there's those little tricks, those little glitches rather, and you just want to, my encouragement for you is when in doubt, go a little higher. Because you know what, they'll keep on, if they don't get the right person in the 100 range, let's say that 1 to 120, they'll keep expanding their parameters, right? It's not that they're never going to see you, they just may not see you on the first round. Okay, are we?
We just have the browser compatibility. An older operating system.
Okay, well, okay, so let me go ahead and give you what I wanted to show you were some sample LinkedIn summaries. Okay, I'm going to actually give you some names of people that you can look up, the folks that I was actually going to pull up, just to give you a couple of examples. The first person, she knows I use her name a lot. Her name is Jill Kurtz, Kurtz. Actually, I don't have that. And she is in public relations, so she's a lane person, not a tribal person. She's in PR. Another guy, his name is Dave. Well, he goes by David. David Martin, M-A-R-T-I-N. He works for a company called Aptify, A-P-T-F-I-F-Y. And then a third person. Her name is Francesca, F-R-A-N-C-E-S-A. Francesca Day, D-E-A. Now, she's a tribal person. She's an association person, very gainfully employed, not looking for a job, but she has a really snazzy profile now. And I'm mentioning that person, or that particular profile, because it's 100% tribal. So you'll see in these summaries that the people who are more lane-oriented, well, let me back up. Jill is a lane person exclusively, has no tribe. Dave is actually a tribe and a lane person. He's in the association tribe, and he's in the marketing lane. Francesca is an executive director for an association, but we didn't make her profile at all about her lane, but only her tribe, because we wanted to showcase in her particular, in her case, the passion that she has for moving the tribe forward. Okay, so I'm just giving 3 different examples, and you're going to see with the writing style here. I'm a copywriter. This is what I do for a living. I write these things. I'm not saying you have to use this type of style, but it's an option for you. Okay, if you want to modify it in some way, or if you want to kind of jazz it up or do your own thing, I want to show you something that's different. than what you're going to see normally out there. Because if you are searching for other people on LinkedIn, what are you typically going to see, right? The 20+ years of experience, and it's going to be very vanilla. Occasionally, you'll see something do something a little jazzier. This is going to be this is going to be more helpful. So we're not online, right? Okay. So as we're wrapping up here, your career vision. So I want you to take a minute, and I mean like a minute, and I want you to answer the following questions quickly.
YouTube.
As quickly as you can. Hopefully you've already been thinking about this during the course of our time. The urgent problem I want to help solve is, yes, you can take
40+. No, YouTube user 40+.
And by the way, think of it, you can also, if you're a tribal person, say the urgent problem I want to help solve for the XYZ tribe is, or mission or sector. The way I do this, or aspirationally the way I want to do this is, a success story might be, and if time or money were an object, I would. This is a great one. This is a great way to really think big, dream big. If there was no obstacles and you could serve any way you wanted to. And by the way, some of you might come away from a talk like this and say, you know what? My day job needs to be that 80%er, but my volunteer work is going to be that thing that I'm passionate about. Because if you're really wanting to make that big of a shift, and you realize that in the risk-averse market that we're in, you're really looking 180 degrees, and you're not going to be able to get the compensation that you want for the level of position, right, in that new thing, because you just don't have the skills necessarily. But man, oh man, can you volunteer? And people like Ken here have volunteered for groups like Taproot, T-A-P-R-O-O-T, Taproot, which is a nonprofit that brings in professionals from various disciplines to work on strategic nonprofit problems. Okay? So that's just an example of that, but there are plenty of nonprofits in town who I'm sure could benefit from skills that you might have. Okay, so here are the questions. I want you to go ahead and just take a couple of minutes, go ahead and fill out the answers, and then we're going to have you do a very quick exercise with your name. Okay, before we go forward, I just pulled out my handy dandy smartphone since the internet's not working. Have digital technology will travel. I want to read you the summary of one of the 3 people that I just shared with you, because I want to give you a sense of what I'm talking about as you are pulling together your own brand. I want you to leave with something meaningful here. Okay? And this is the summary of the person who is both a tribe and a lane person. And I say that because when you know something about the challenges that your tribe are facing, guess what? Every tribe is facing some, right? We're all going through convulsions these days. And you're in a unique position to help them solve it, you need to say something. So I'm going to just read this to you, if that's okay, real quickly. And this is a guy who's in my association tribe, so Ken and like people will understand this. Associations are in a fight for survival. Members are now consumers with abundant options to learn and connect, mostly for free. So why should they pay to belong? To capture their hearts and minds, associations must toss out the old playbook of one-size-fits-all marketing and deliver targeted, value-based content that solves real problems. Inbound marketing will attract your members using a magnet, not a bullhorn. Do you see how different this is?
Mm-hmm.
Different than content marketing. By the way, just to give you a little backstory here, inbound marketing is a marketing technique that corporations have been using for many, many years, but associations have not yet en masse. So he's basically preaching to his fellow marketing professionals in associations and telling them there's this new thing, which really isn't so new, but new for them, that they need to know, and he's about to explain it. Different than content marketing, inbound is about developing relevant content for your members and prospects, but it's also about blogging, SEO, keywords, landing pages, and we go on and on and on. It's the perfect marriage of technology, science, and content. And then we have this line that says, the new playbook of inbound marketing. So he's preaching, again, he's telling these folks, here's the way to change it. Reconsider how your marketing ecosystem plays together. Integrate outbound marketing with inbound, there's a place for both. Rethink your use of email. Reposition your brand by telling stories that remind people why it's good to belong, and then we have several others. And then the new marketing mindset. Be willing to learn and be comfortable with a little risk. Uncharted territory is a great canvas to paint on. Investigate new technology that will help you integrate your content delivery channels. Consider outsourcing when your staff isn't sufficient, and embrace change. It's messy, but the survival of your association depends on it. Let's write the playbook together, and then his email address. Okay? And then he actually has a blog, and he says, and for more in-depth musings, take a stroll through my blog, and then writes it. Okay? So this is a different way to showcase your brand. Does that make sense? I wanted you to walk away with another way of thinking, but how do you want to showcase your value? Okay, so with that, let's take another couple of minutes here, and I want to work with your partner. Okay? Pick partner, any partner, one person, two person, one's better, a little more intimate. What's your career vision? Okay? What's your lane? Maybe a good title for your brand, and what if any is your tribe? So go ahead and tell me.